निरञ्जनं नित्यं अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामि. Namaste and welcome to our Sunday spiritual talk. The subject matter of today's talk is the importance and practice of solitude in spiritual life. I've selected this topic because when we go through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we notice that more than around 90 times this word solitude comes up in his teachings. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is a recording by Master Mahashay Mahendranath Gupta of the conversations in which he was present, mostly over the weekends when devotees comprising of teachers, business people, lawyers, people from all walks of life, devotees would go to Sri Ramakrishna and engage in different spiritual question and answers, enjoying his company, listening to the Master's teachings. As the main teaching is that the goal of life is to realize God or our higher spiritual self. So after seeing his repeated samadhis and listening to his instructions, we will find that in the Gospel, many times among the people who are present, they would ask this one question. So what is the way for us? Okay, you have realized God, we can see that you are enjoying the divine communion. For us, householders and people in all walks of life, what is the way for us? So that's a very pertinent question, because that would be like questions you'd ask if you had audience with Sri Ramakrishna. And you will find that invariably the answer Master gives is almost the same everywhere. And he says three things. First, he says satsang, spiritual company. We will go into on this subject maybe and then next or the following week. Secondly, he says spiritual practice, taking the name of the Lord, singing his glories, doing japa, doing meditation. Means you should not only go to join a spiritual group of people, but that's an opportunity for you to intensify your spiritual disciplines. And thirdly, he says invariably the importance of nirjan vas, ekanta vas, going into solitude. So, and there are a few other disciplines here recommends, for example, always practicing discrimination, spiritual discrimination between the real and the unreal. Everything in real means the eternal permanent entity behind this creation. Unreal means all that is within time, space and causation, which is always subject to creation, preservation and withdrawal, subject to change. So he said, always be mindful that this world is unreal, in the sense, whatever it is there for a short time. So don't put too much value in something which is not there forever. On the other hand, seek for something beyond. But when he comes to this idea of solitude, he would say, and give the importance to it so much, he would say, look, one must practice solitude. And people would say, how long should we practice solitude? So we say, if you can practice solitude for a month, that would be fantastic. But a week, that's great. 3 days, that's not bad. But even for a day. So it is so important that he's making all these allowances, that even if you could do it for a day, like many people are there in having various responsibilities, in duties, in all those things, they cannot really get out for 1 month. Maybe very difficult to get out for 1 week also. A long weekend of 3 days might be possible, but they still have family members and children to look after. They can't simply drop everyone and simply disappear for 3 days. So he says, you should at least try to go for 1 day. And I don't think many people should be able to say that even that is not possible for me. So those who are serious, you should be able to get out. Then he tells, it's not just simply leaving your home and everything and going into a quiet place. That's a physical distancing, social distancing, as we might say. But that's a disconnection that we are trying to do so that we can engage the mind to something else. That engagement or contemplation or redirection of the mind towards the spiritual varieties, that is the main purpose. Going to solitude is a means to wean the mind away, to distance it off, to disconnect for the time being, so that the world outside there is not constantly poking and jabbing and seeking your attention. You have to respond to them because you are in the midst of it. So when you distance yourselves for a while, you'll find that in that quietness, one can engage the mind in more undisturbed meditation, in the japa, repetition of the mantra, in reviewing your life, withdrawing away and seeing things in a what I call zoomed out mode, like you would say, in its totality. So he would give so much importance. And he said, look, the world is like water. Spiritual consciousness that we really are is like the milk. These two have got mixed up. We have to learn the art of extracting that essence of that milk from this mixture of water and cream or milk that is there. So how do you do? The mothers will say, okay, this is how we do. We will set the milk so that it gets converted or turned into curd. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to let it be in a place. You should not touch it too much and disturb it, otherwise it will not set in this way. And if you leave it in peace for a while, it will get converted into curd. And then you have to go through the next stage. That's the discipline part of it. You churn the curd, and not just once or twice, but you have to really give it a nice churning, and then you will see some magic happens. The cream gets separated from the rest of the buttermilk, and you can take that cream out, and it will remain separated from the milk. Likewise, the mind has got too much mixed up with this world, and we need to go through this process of setting it up in a quiet place, undisturbed for a while, and then churning it, so to say. In that churning process, this worldliness of the mind, various worldly thoughts, worldly engagements, the tendency of the mind to go out to sense enjoyments, just being busy with food, clothing, shelter, and all those type of things, that is sort of disconnected because it's not immediately available to you. And when the mind is so sort of freed from these distractions, mind you, the mind has become conditioned in this way from childhood that naturally it goes out. So you can't, if you simply said, I will be in the midst of everything and still be able to do, you'll find that, yes, the intention is good, but the world keeps on impinging and pulling us out. So we need to really, just like we need to settle the milk in a quiet corner and leave it undisturbed for a while, likewise, we need to leave the mind in a quiet place. And then, not just leave it there, we have to do some churning. That churning with the idea of separating the spiritual content of our being from the worldly or non-spiritual, the material content of what we are. Because we are a mixture of body, mind, and consciousness. These three things have got all muddled up. And we want to separate the Atman nature from the Prakriti nature, the materialized nature, so to say. That's the whole of sadhana is there, spiritual disciplines are there. So he would say, just like milk has to be set in a quiet place and converted into curd, and then that curd has to be churned, and the cream is separated, and then that cream also, if you can put it on the fire and heat it and sort of evaporate all the water out, what you are left with is pure ghee, and that ghee can be left for a long time without it getting burnt. That is the process of purification, removing the impurities, the drosses, the pollutants, so to say, and you're left with the pure essence of what that milk was. So he would insist on that devotees should do that as much as possible. And if it was not so important, he would not be repeating it again and again and again. Okay. So, for those of us who are very serious about making spiritual progress, it's not just good to read those instructions again and again, but to action them. And action means you have to follow them. So, if this becomes a priority, self-realization, God realization is an important priority in our lives, then we will allocate some time and effort to that. And one of those things you should be mindful is to look out for an opportunity to do this. You might have a long weekend of Easter. You said, okay, I will make arrangements so that I can go and spend some time in quiet solitude. We'll talk about what you will do there, but that's very, very important. Going into solitude, Sri Ramakrishna says, gives three methods. He says, Mone, Bone, Kone. Mone means internally in your own mind you go cut off. You might be in the midst of the family and things and that mentally you are able to detach yourself and be within yourself, in your own zone, so to say. It might not be possible immediately for a beginner, but through practice one can develop that capacity to detach. Everything is possible through abhyasa, through practice. Kone means in some corner of the room, house that you're living, because you can't simply leave your house and go away. So you probably would have a quiet corner of your house, which is your shrine, away from the kitchen and the public area, so to say, which is your place for prayer and meditation. Where you go and you have been going and doing your spiritual practices for a long time, the whole family accesses that particular place whenever they need some inner peace of mind, or some clarity, or just to regularly pray and intensify one's spiritual life, like morning and evening, sitting down for meditation and japa, all those things. So that is your special area. And if you have such a quiet place in your house, because the family is a spiritual family and you have prioritized spiritual discipline as an important part of your everyday life, so to say, then you have made this wonderful place so every day, just like we go out at work and come back and have a physical shower, wash our body. Likewise, when we go out in the world, our minds also get a little polluted by all types of thoughts and ideas, and we need to give that a little wash, so to say. And spiritual practices by which we use the spiritual knowledge and the mantra that has been given by the spiritual teacher, and you'll find that you give it a nice prolonged washing in the form of japa and meditation and spiritual contemplation, and the mind then shines and is feeling light and good and unpolluted by the world, so much to say. So, Mone, Bone, Kone. Bone means into the forest, really literally leaving the house. And he would say, Sri Ramakrishna would say, when you go out, don't take your whole family. Leave the husband or wife and the children and everyone there. There you have got given them so much time of your life from morning to evening, from January to December anyway. I'm sure they can stay a few days on their own. But you need to get out of that constant sense of duty. I have to do this, I have to cook, I have to look after them and all that. They will take care of themselves. You make this arrangement, but you want to be just with your own self. We find that many people are not very comfortable with them being with their own self. They constantly have become, because of that constant engagement with the outside world, we have become conditioned to this need for stimulation and company and contact. So, for any reason, suppose one is needed to be quiet or alone, you'll find that people will begin to call somebody to have a conversation, or if they have free time, let's go out somewhere to eat or some picnic or beach. They just do not know how to enjoy their own company, the quietitude of their mind. And that is very, very sad in this age, to be constantly excited, stimulated, and not letting your mind settle down, not to be able to live your own self, so to say. So, Sri Ramakrishna would say, try to make these type of arrangements. You should have a little corner of your house where, in your room, your prayer room, where you will go regularly and meditate. And as you do so, in that particular place, the spiritual vibrations will build up, and that will be a very pure, sanctified place in your house, and the very moment you enter in there, those vibrations will uplift your mind. That's a wonderful place to have in your house, because someday you might be stressed out, a little disturbed or whatever, and if you go into that place, the very aura of that place, the vibration of that place, the divine presence of that place will uplift you. Sri Ramakrishna says, Holy Mother says, wherever God is contemplated on, where we pray to Him with great earnestness, where we meditate on Him, where we repeat His mantra, that place becomes charged with the divine presence. And that's a wonderful thing to have in your house and be accessible to, make it accessible to all the family members. That's the whole concept behind temples, where large number of devotees over long periods of time come and engage in spiritual contemplation and spiritual exercises. That particular place becomes charged with the spiritual vibrations. And when devotees from far and wide come there, they are, without much effort from their own side, are helped to uplift the mind from the everyday mundane thoughts and things, and the minds are tuned to some higher spiritual subjects. So that's the whole idea. One can have that in one's own home, and one should try to have that. So, Mone, Vone, Kones. We talked about the house part of it, where you can have one little quiet area of solitude. Let us talk about how one can and what one will do when one goes into solitude, really, say, for example, 3-day retreat you are going to give yourself. It could be a place you have just found out, or Airbnb something, some nice quiet place, and you have just packed your minimum requirements, some clothes and things, and you say, I'm going to go there. But when you turn up there, what are you going to do? Are you again busy with, okay, what are you going to eat, or are you going to cook, or let's go look around, what's around this place and enjoy a little bit? That will make you a tourist, not a spiritual seeker. If you are a spiritual seeker, what would you do? Of course, no one is accompanying with you. You'll have a plan. And today I would like to discuss with you a plan that you can have for yourself. If it appeals to you, you can try it out. Because we can talk about all theories and ideas. We should have some sadhana, the actionable part of it, where you can really go out. So I'll share with you some idea that has been in my mind for quite some time, and I thought it could be good to have a retreat like that. Normally, when a lot of people get together in a retreat place, just because many numbers are there, it really is not ideally a retreat place. It ends up being a little workshop where like-minded people have gathered, and there is some topic, spiritual topics are discussed, and of course there is opportunity to have a lot of interaction and all those things. Some program is there. You could be getting up early in the morning, which many people might not be doing, but that very fact that everyone has been requested to get up at say 5 o'clock in the morning and sit down for one long hour of meditation is something, a nice discovery for some people. Said, wow, I could do that, that was nice, let me do this again in the evening, this meditation. And during the whole day, in the company of these people, some spiritual topics are being discussed. But there are so many thoughts, so many ideas, it's not in your control what is happening, and there are so many people. And all that, of course, your 3 meals and rest and walkabouts and everything is there. Really, we would not call that a retreat. Retreat would be means stepping back, zooming out. Okay, so how do we do that? What would be a plan? So if we say we have 3 days time, and you want that at the end of 3 days, you will take something solid out of these 3 days. So you are very focused and determined. You've got a plan. What would that plan, what that plan could look like is being proposed here. So the first day is when you will review this life. Depending how old you are, doesn't matter. When you say, here I am at this age of 50 or 60 or 70, whatever, let me see. Just a slow motion of my life, and I'm going to look at it without any judgment, without any reaction to it, just reviewing the whole thing. Like it's a movie that has been recorded and you look through the whole thing. But just don't daydream and sit down there. You will do a little bit of critical, surgical analysis of it. Okay, what did I learn out of it? What did I get out of this? What have I become out of? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where am I positioned here and now type of thing. So it's a very interesting exercise when you will look back. You were born in a particular place, in a particular environment, with particular parents, and you had brothers and sisters, and you had all these opportunities for your growth and education, grandparents, and all those things, and you tick off all those things, nice things happen. In that, you had so many dreams and ambitions in your life. Slowly, as you went to primary school, learned so many things, secondary school, and you see how your mind was growing and changing, how your values were changing during teenage and youth. You had these fantastic ideas about what you wanted out of life. And then now you turn around and look at them and say, oh, that was very crazy. Why did I think on those things? But that was you, and how you were growing and maturing, and the experiences of life are teaching you certain things. Okay, experience is the greatest teacher. What did I learn through all these experiences of my life? Every day has been like turning over a page of this book, and I'm reading that book today. And what is the essence? So, what I have learned. And if somebody, a young child, came to me and said, can you tell me out of your own experience, please don't quote some book or somebody else, out of your own experience, can you tell me 3 things as your advice to me, who am young and have this life in front of me, as what I should do and what I should not do? But you have to tell me out of your own experience. You should say, in life I have learned this, and tell in very short one sentence so that they can remember. And you might want to tell that to your children and grandchildren. They might profit from your experience. Maybe save them so much trouble because they have learned something from you. This is how wisdom is transferred to them. If it resonates with them, that means in the previous life sometime they have gone through that experience. Here it will click to them and they said, I know, I will not do these things, or I will do these things. But if they have not, then they will need to go through their own experience, because experience is the only teacher. So you will go through that, and in that you will see your life unfolding, you're growing, you're maturing, you're growing, of course, physically. That's, of course, you can see that's very visible. You might want to be a little bit more analytical. Say, okay, how did I grow emotionally? As a child, I was like this. Did I mature emotionally? Or I still am a little bit, that type of growth has not been there where I'm strong and resistant and not sentimental and emotionally weak type of person. So you grade yourself, are you happy with that or not? But it's like a critical analysis, because you see, if you're not well or you want to know your health, you will go to your doctor and say, this is my annual checkup. Doc, tell me, am I all right? He said, fine, you need to do all this blood test and everything. Bring the results to me, I'll analyze it. And I will tell you everything looks good, but you will do it only physically. Here you are trying to do that medical checkup or analysis, but not only physically, so to say, emotionally, intellectually. How have you grown intellectually? Okay, so your mind has become sharper, your concentration has become stronger or deeper, your power of mental clarity, decision making, is that sharpened up, or is still a little confused like we were in teenage when we did not know what to do? No, life has taught certain things, has toughened up us, has sharpened us up, and we are better off. Now, how did we grow? Are you happy with that? Level of your concentration of your mind. Can you put your mind on something for 1 hour and really focus onto that? Or your mind is restless like teenagers where, constantly they need to be engaged with something. So that's intellectual growth. You might look at yourself as a moral and ethical person. What values do I have? What gives meaning to me? And how do I have that self-respect and self-esteem for myself? Am I happy with myself as a person with values? Did I lapse somewhere down in the path when challenges came or temptations came, and because I was not so strong, I gave away to certain things, and I look back, I'm not very happy with certain actions and thoughts and deeds. If I had an opportunity, I would have done in a different way. Those type of revealing are important, because in future, again when such an opportunity comes, situation, because you have done that analysis, you will make a better decision. Otherwise, it could be automatic repetition, because once you do something, it's easier to go through that same loop again. Habits are formed like that. And then you will, of course, ask the spiritual questions. And the spiritual questions are very simple. Do I know? Who am I? Okay. Do I know where did I come from? That might be a big question mark still hanging in there. Do I know where I'm going? Again. And what's the meaning and purpose of this life? So you'll find there, if you have not done some really homework, even study, there will be a lot of questions marks still hanging there, because most of the time we have been busy with our physical world, mental world, emotional world, a little bit of our moral ethical. But spiritually, if you have not been very alert and sensitive and up to the spiritual purpose of life, maybe that part has been left unattended. But it's good to do that analysis. You'll find certain things that are not very, something that you're not very happy with. But it's good. It's better to know that some problem is there, so you can attend to it, rather than live in that illusion that everything is fine. Okay. A little bit of disillusionment is necessary now and then. That disillusionment could be painful, but it is better to have a painful disillusionment than to continue to live in illusion at any time. So when life comes and gives us a few blows, you'll find that it begins to shake us from our comfort zone. We have some experience which we do not like. We call them painful, klishta. But you'll find that we learn more from the painful ones than from the happy, nice moments or experience of our life. The painful teachers are better teachers, you'll find. In school also, if you find some teacher was always very easy, and every time you wanted to have some sports, he said, go and play, and it's not so much focused. And so he was a school favorite in the school time, because everyone liked the teacher, and because the teacher sort of entertained the request, while another teacher could be very strict with his studies and exams and everything, and he was a real terror, you might say. But when you look back, you will respect and like the teacher who was always very firm, because he made you, he pushed you, he made you discover yourself, and you are now what you are because of him, so to say. So painful experiences, challenges sometimes are bigger teachers in life, and you will take them in that, look at them in that particular way. So it could be a whole day exercise. Okay, you sit down under a mango tree or on the veranda, but you write down. Just don't go through the words. And you will make a list and says, okay, now I have reviewed my life. You'll be surprised, because so many things were just simply drifting in and out. Days were becoming weeks and months and years, and suddenly that hair is becoming gray and skin is wrinkling and people around are disappearing you, and suddenly, and so what is this life about? You do a stock take. In business, people do a audit, financial audit. You just don't run a business. You want to do an audit to find out if you are making profit or where you're losing money, and then you will have your financial plan and you have some remedial action to do it better. But if you don't do all these things, then life simply just drifts along. That's not good. We should be in control. So that could be the first day of experience. Give yourself time, don't stress yourself out, but it could be a whole day of engagement. You don't require TV or radio, somebody to be talking to you. You are looking at your own life, and you'll find so many nice things about you. How you have grown up. This is me, I like myself, and these are my strengths, and they're good. And these are my weaknesses, I need to work upon themselves. But this is what I am. Day 2. If you are a spiritual seeker, of course, retreat means you would be one of those people. You have been reading books, reading scriptures, listening to talks, engaging in different conversations, and all those things have been going on. You have some idea about what life, the spiritual purpose of life is, which is self-realization. Realizing means you should become real for you, not an idea or thought. You should, just like this world is real, I see it. The Atman should be seen or experienced just as tangibly. That would be a realization. Experience. Anubhuti is the word in Sanskrit. So you have understood that this is what the scriptures have taught. Great teachers have come and taught, incarnations have taught, and that clarity is there to some idea, to some extent. So in day 2, you would like to do some goal setting. First day was review, looking back and say how I have come to where I am now. Day 2, I'm 50 years old or 60 years old, and I assume depending on your health and whatever, I'm going to live to 80 years old. After that, a little bit too old and maybe I would not be able to do much. If anything more than that, that's bonus. But good physical health and active life and all those things, say 80. You set that goal, 80, 85, whatever is there. And you do some goal setting, say at age of 85, if I have to leave this world, how would I like to see myself? You'll find that, sometimes even job interviews, the interviewers will ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years time type of thing. They're trying to see, do you have some vision? Do you have some goals, or are you just going to drift along? Because that goal will draw you and encourage you to reach somewhere. Otherwise, you're just floating along. So here, where do you see yourself again in all these 5 dimensions? How do you see yourself physically? So if there are no underlying issues, you say, I have to do my exercises and eat good food and be a little bit more alert about my recreation and all that, so that I have a good old age without disease and all those type of things. That's doable mostly if you have good food, clothing, shelter and all those type of things, and medical services or facilities available in the country where you live in. How do you see yourself emotionally evolved? And you would say, okay, I understand that a emotionally developed, evolved person will have these wonderful emotional qualities of empathy, kindness, compassion, love for everyone, and all those type of things. I have some of them, but I would like to intensify that a little bit more, and I would like to cultivate this. Maybe this is an area that requires some work, but you'll do some goal setting. At the same time, yes, I know having love and attachment to family, all that is good, but it's also a source of problem also, because I can't detach myself. So along with that, I will practice a little bit of detachment, because without detachment, the world keeps on affecting me. That's a quality that I have not really practiced, but I should practice. So how do I do that? I'm going to be mindful about that. Then you say, okay, at the intellectual level, the mental level, so to say, how do I cultivate that aspect of mind? Anything else to be done there? Of course, you can always develop your power of mental concentration a little bit more. Your capacity to analyze and make right decisions at the right time, that also can be improved. All these intellectual muscles can be exercised by engaging it with the right exercises, so to say, in the gymnasium. So that's fine. You might look at your moral and ethical life and you said, okay, there are certain areas that need to be tidied up also. Maybe I have not been paying so much attention to the path of dharma, righteousness, truthfulness, and all those type of things in my thoughts, words, and deeds. And now I will make sure that I attend to them. Whatever I do in my thought, word, and deed should be a morally and ethical, upright path, so that it will take me towards my spiritual self, because adharma will take me away from it. So I will be very, very mindful of that. Whatever decision I will make, I will think twice, thrice, and make sure that they are morally and ethically right. Only then I will take that decision. I will make sure that I will never compromise on truthfulness, because Ramakrishna has said, in this Kali Yuga, truthfulness alone is the tapasya, the austerity. So yeah, it might be difficult, I might lose out certain things, but that is going to be important for me in my spiritual journey. So I will, as Christ says in the Bible, what does it befit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? No, I would rather not lose my soul. The world will go anyway, but in the process, I'm not sold out. So those things become important hereafter, so to say. And spiritually, yes, you want to do a goal setting there. How do you see yourself? Yes, you have grown in devotion to God, your faith in God, your quality of your meditation has improved, your intensity of your spiritual sadhana and japa, that has improved, your spiritual mind is becoming more luminous, clarity is there, and you can feel that inner light and that inner peace and that inner joy of the Atman within. You would like to reach a place where you have developed this habit of constant contemplation, so that contemplation and repetition of the mantra, because in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, the last thought at the time of departing from this body determines our next life. And that's why he says that, look, engage yourself in this war, but keep your mind on God, on the Atman. And how do we do that? Through repetition of the mantra, through devotion, through prayerfulness, through spiritual company and all those things. So, you are doing some goal setting, spiritually, morally, ethically, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. And you'll find that one whole day can go in detail. You're just noting it down, and where do you want to see yourself when you leave this world, so to say. So that's day 2 gone, so to say. Day 3 would be, so what are you going to do about it? You set the goal. So just setting the goals is one thing, but having a business plan, an action plan, a life plan, that also has to come. So here we have got a plan, a map. You came from birth to this particular position. This is a present age. You have set the destination, how you want to see yourself when you leave this world, because life is very important, time is very precious. In this period that you have, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, is where you will draw up your priorities and action plans so that you really do. Otherwise, they'll be all wonderful dreams. I wish. You will say, I wish I had done that, I wish I had done that, So that would not be very good, especially if you are alert to a spiritual idea. You see, those who have not been introduced to spiritual subject matter, books, literature, spiritual company, who have not really got the opportunity to learn about these things, about God or Atman or the goal of life. If they at their old age, 80, 90, hear this for the first time, and they say, I wish I had heard about these things in my young days so that I would have incorporated this in my journey of life. They have an excuse because they did not get it. But those who were born in that culture and had all those things around them, had all these opportunities, and yet did not do the best, most sincerely, they would not be very happy with themselves in old age. They would say, I wish I had done a little bit more. Let that situation not happen to us. Okay. And that will only happen when you become very serious about it. So here again you say, what are you going to do about it regarding your physical strengthening and health? Okay, you'll say, I'm going to do my exercises, I'm going to be watchful about my meals and recreation and all that, so that I have this body which is not full of pain and suffering, and when I'm trying to sit down for half an hour of meditation, this is not cooperating, that would not do. I'm going to take care of this boat that's going to help me cross this ocean, so to say. Emotionally, yes, what type of emotional exercises and things you will do. You might say, okay, I'm too sensitive, I'm too much attached to it, to things around there. I'm too easily affected by things happening around there. I have to toughen myself by cultivating the spiritual qualities so that the world is there, it cannot affect me. I will be in control, I'll be the master of the situation, not be a slave to the world out there, so that I jump up and down, I'm happy or unhappy at the call and the backing of the world. No, I will be in control of myself, in my own position. Mentally, intellectually, yes, I would like to have a good solid concentration, not for only a short 10-15 minutes. I should be able to sit down for a long time and be able to really go deep into a subject matter and discover the joy of knowledge. See, beyond the words, beyond the concepts is something deeper. And the teacher, whoever communicated, had those ideas in their mind, and they encoded them in those languages. It could be a book or talk or whatever, scripture there. And we come to these words and things, and sometimes we are grappling around with the meaning with the words and things, but sometimes we miss the core idea. So if we say, what were those ideas in the head of Sri Krishna? Core ideas. Let me go directly deep to that source. And so it requires a type of penetrating insight beyond the external structures and forms to capture the essence of the idea. And then you'll find those, when you get it, when people say, oh, the penny drops, or you suddenly feel that inner joy, oh, such a nice meaning, I didn't think like this before. that joy of knowledge is far superior to the joy of sense enjoyments of eating and drinking like that. Let me discover that part of it. You see, that inner joy that is our nature shines through the mind when the mind becomes pure. So you'll understand that knowledge, purity, beauty, everything that we seek for, all that is divine is the very nature, the swarupa of the Atman. But that Atman has been covered by the sense of ego, the sense of this intellect, buddhi, the mind and the senses and this body idea. And these three, whatever is in Prakriti, differentiation, are made according to the Bhagavad Gita and the Sankhya philosophy of three qualities, three constituents of tamas, rajas and sattva. Tamas is darkness, inertia. Okay, light doesn't penetrate through it. Rajas is something that colors and makes something appear as something else, like white light coming through a red glass appears as red light. No, light, the red glass has given that coloring to that light. Likewise, our minds are colored by our ideas and thoughts and opinions and all those things that are conditioned by the flood of information and whatever is coming to us all the time. We want to decondition this mind so that it attains a certain degree of purity and we see things as they are. That pure mind which is transparent is a sattvic mind, so that we see things as they are. White glass passing through a transparent glass appears as a white light itself. So really, the reality that we are seeking for is there within us, but the work has to be done in this internal area of our mind, and this is called Chitta Shuddhi, purification of the mind. And there are standard techniques taught by our sages about how to bring about that purification of the mind. These are called sadhanas, the yogas. And I'm going to engage, go back into the world, go and do my duties, go and interact with my family members, with my colleagues and people and all those things that are there, but I'm going to convert that all into a spiritual exercise. Not just simply living for the sake of living and saying, I'm 50 years old and let's have a celebration. What have you achieved in that 50 years old age that you are celebrating? Just living for 50 years, a tree can also be 50 years old also. What does it celebrate? So, there must be some attainment and achievements or some celebration. And if you really look seriously in your life and you have set some very high goals that I wanted this to be, to have achieved, how many people would be there really who have said that I had expected and aimed for to be here at the age of 60 and now I have 60, I'm 60 years old and I've got it and let's celebrate. Most people who say there's no celebration there, we are still lagging behind. So, if that is not there, then we will celebrate just because the body has become 50 or 60 years old, like that, something like that. So, seriousness comes, evaluation, constant alertness will be there. Okay, so this, how do we bring about those changes in our everyday activities with great alertness? Always being mindful that one day is becoming a week, a month, a year, not just simply January has suddenly turned into December and I do not know how it happened. And so we'll look at that intellectual part of it. A clear, luminous mind, penetrating insight, great concentration, able to decipher beyond opinions to facts. Like if you look at the news in the newspaper or the television, how many people are there when they look at or hear something and say, that's somebody's opinion, that is opinion, that's opinion. Is there any fact in there? You see, this person is giving his opinion, that person is giving his opinion, and the opinions are not facts. Maybe there are no facts in there, but everyone swallows it because it comes through this channel. It is in the newspaper, it has been said in on the television, therefore it is a fact. And those who don't have this power of discrimination become things in the hands of people who want to exploit them. And you'll find that in this age of social media and all those things, where people are able to connect directly to the masses without any screening and filtering that normally would happen through the old media communication system, news system. There is all types of things out there. If that discrimination is not there to filter and separate what is the fact, what is the truth from the rest, then people are totally confused and bamboozled, and you will see a lot of that happening around the world. How do we prevent and protect ourselves and our children and people around. Who can be there? You can't be there constantly guiding them, say this is not right, that is not right. The best way you can do is to empower them with a mind, with the power of discrimination, so they can decide and filter whatever comes into them and say, this is truth and this is not, and I will react, except let only truth come into me. That which is not true, I will relegate it, discard it and filter it out, so to say. That itself is a wonderful mind that can do that. Then you look at your moral and ethical dimensions. Yes, I would like to grow in kindness and compassion and sacrifice and all those wonderful things. So you might say, I will engage more in charitable works, because it's not just good to say, I like to be compassionate, I like to be compassionate and not doing anything compassionate. I'd like to be loving and loving, but it could be, people say, be kind to others, but when it comes time to be kind to others, they are not kind to others, because their kindness to others means sometimes be kind to me type of thing. So when we look at that type of, have that charity, then we'll do things. It's not simply thinking that I'll become like that. So you'll engage in doing a little bit of charity to people who are in need. Yes, you might not have money to give, but yes, you can go and talk to somebody, you might be able to teach somebody, you might be able to do so many other things. Everyone has got something to give. And as you give, you become better in that. That particular quality will flourish in you. Okay. And then, of course, how do you see yourself spiritually? And that is the important part, because now you understand what will take you to the destination, and it could be really doing your spiritual practices with great earnestness and sincerity. Allocating that type of time to it, morning and evening, half an hour, without any exception, without any excuse. I will do it whether I like it or not. This is part of the training. I will do my japa this many times. I will read 15 minutes of scripture every day in the morning. I'll get my family together after the dinner and we'll take up some book, and one person will read and everyone will listen, maybe have some discussion, and that is something we will do as a family. It's family time. This is spiritual food for everyone. We need it. Okay, but if you don't feed yourself, physically you are very strong, spiritually you are thin like a blade of grass. Okay, because you never fed yourself the spiritual food and never exercised, and therefore we do not grow in that way. So parents will be mindful of that also. And yes, not everyone will like it. Just like, children don't like vegetables, but parents force you to eat vegetables because vegetables are good for you. Likewise, spiritual food is so, until they themselves will grow that taste for it and say, that's nice. I like this, doing this little puja, doing this prayer and meditation. I feel good about it and I feel strong about it. So once they are set on that path, because they're following the parents, everyone is doing it together, it's a nice spiritual family, you have great love and joy and caring and sharing, but it's not only some superficial type of thing, it's deeply embedded, and there is a place in the house where everyone can go as to their need and connect with the ultimate source within themselves through the devotion. That is also there. So, you see, you have got a plan now. Write that plan. And not a very long plan that down the line, this is something I will do this year. Okay, because you're going to come back again sometime later and go through this whole exercise and do another review. So this is my plan for this year or this 6 months. And keep it simple. Don't make it too difficult where you can't reach it and then 6 months down the line you feel bad about it. So I planned that I will sit down and meditate for 2 hours, but I can't do that. That was unrealistic. Do something that's practical and realistic and achievable. And of course, when you leave that retreat now, your own personal retreat where there was no one to talk to, but because there was a plan and you went through this exercise of analyzing, reviewing, goal setting, and making an actionable plan, you come with some things by which your everyday is going to get transformed. So what happens now, you see, this person gets up in the morning without anyone telling him, sits down for his 1 hour of meditation or half hour, does some physical exercises, does some breathing and all those type of things, go for work, is mindful about the food that he is eating, and given up all this smoking and drugs or alcohol, whatever bad habits, things were there, because you don't want a compromised health, especially with all these viruses and things going around this world. So, and one is very much alert, and the focus is within. You'll find there will be some changes in that person's lifestyle. Maybe he drops off so much of the socializing, going out to these parties and all those unnecessary things that were a waste of time, so to say, minimizes that, so to say, maybe, and weans the mind away towards this. And you'll find that as you go, engage yourself towards paying attention to what you really want out of life, there will be from within you a awakening of another type of joy and contentment, happiness within, that I'm doing something for myself. Because you'll find that if you look around, we are doing everything for everyone. What are you really doing for yourself? Maybe not even 10% of your time is given there. Here you have set something up. Yes, you have not ignored anyone. They are also taken care of. But you are also important in that. If you are healthy and strong, you will find that you will be able to better serve those around you also. So that is that inner joy and that contentment with yourself, with your life, and how you're going in that journey. That is very, very important. Otherwise, when your center of gravity is too much outside, means external things are giving value to you. What people say about you. You know, how many likes are there on the Facebook? If they decide whether you're happy or unhappy, that's not very good. How much money in the bank you have? Yes, you require that for your food, clothing, shelter. But excess of that is not good. How you spend the most valuable asset that you have, and that's not your money, it's your time. You cannot extend that. You cannot, it is just something there, and if you don't use it, you can't go back. It's a one-way flow. It's not a reversible reaction type of things there. So am I mindful of that most important thing, or that is simply just being spent away like a candle is burning away and one fine day it will be all extinguished? See, many people are there, they're not even aware of really onto it, so to say. So think about those things, and you'll find a certain degree of seriousness and alertness will come. And you are alert that one day all this will also go. On this world will disappear. Nothing is permanent here. Even if it is there, I'm not in this part of this world, so to say. So what happens 50 years from now? Yes, you would like your children and grandchildren and the next generation all to be better off there, but you are not going to be part of that game. So don't give too much, have a headache about that. Here is this 30 years I'm going to live. I'm going to do my best, what is for me and for the world, and up to that much I should talk about and think about. I should not talk about what's happening in the rest of the world, because that's out of my area anyway. What's happening in another country, in another politics, whatever, that is nothing to do with me. Why should I waste my valuable time and mental energy on something that is irrelevant to me? That type of alertness, if you can build, then you'll find that you'll be able to conserve so much of that wasteful energy and time that is being constantly being frittering away in irrelevant things. And that becomes your asset. Now you can rechannelize it to your own goal that you've set. So like this, you go out, do this, come back, have a simple action plan, and start actioning it. And you'll find that you'll feel good about it, because you are going deeper and deeper. It'll give you a greater sense of gravity. At least now I am on my journey. Before I was just wandering around here and there, and I've got a definite purpose, and I'm making some progress, and you like yourself. And that is, liking myself is the most wonderful thing. Liking other people and other things, no. At the core of your being, one should like oneself, love oneself, so to say. That my life is a blessed life. I have come across this knowledge and wisdom. This life is a great opportunity, and I'm putting it to good use according to my best of my capacity. Whatever it is, maybe 30 years, 40 years has gone, you missed it. But the moment I woke up, I'm onto the job. If you do that with great sincerity, come the last moment, and you're lying in a hospital bed or something, yes, the goal has not been reached as you had set and all those things, but you can say from the bottom of your heart, and you can pray to the divine, say, I did my best. The rest is in your hands. You should be able to say that. You should not be able to say, oh, I wish I could do a little bit more. Then your self of surrender would be that much less, so to say, divine. And if you can do that, I think one can be at peace at the end of the day. That this was a good life. Yes, I had all my duties and responsibilities. In the teenage or childhood where I was born and all that, I didn't have much control over that. I grew, followed what the society said, went through the school system and high school system and the university and did what others said, got married, had children and all those things. At some point, these opportunities came. I came across this blessed knowledge and I fortunate that it came my way and I was alert to it and I woke up to it. And I did something with that. And that transformed my spiritual life. It has made it a better something. And I have grown in this journey from birth to death. I'm going to take something from this life. I'm not going to take this body. I'm not going to take any of my relationships. I'm not going to take any of my material possessions. But I'm going to take that knowledge and I have grown in those spiritual qualities and I have evolved, so to say. And that's what the divine looks at. God's grace means helping us ascend in this spiritual direction. Not simply being born and then just traveling horizontally, becoming old and dying without any evolution and growth. Greater manifestation of divinity within us. So Swami Vivekananda says, each soul is potentially divine. That potentiality is there. I woke up to that. The goal of life is to manifest that divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. And then he says, do it through work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. It means all of these 4 yogas. By one or more, or all of this and be free. Do you feel that you are freer? Free from ignorance, free from suffering, but the ultimate is free from the cycle of rebirth. If that is set up nicely, then you can look back and have some joy and contentment and say, that was a life well lived. That itself is God's grace. Okay, and that is there all the time. All we need to do is unfurl the sail and catch the wind, and it will help us sail our boat across. So we talked about this idea of retreat. I hope that would be useful to you. Think, write down your notes, analyze this, and see if you can action it. Find an opportunity, 3 days somewhere, Easter weekend or something like that, or some long weekend is coming. Prepare something, go out and do this exercise and see if it helps you. If it does, then you will be it will transform from what is called a static piety into dynamic spirituality. Next week, I hope to take this idea or develop this. The second point was, Sri Ramakrishna said 3 ways of detaching, mone, pone, in the corner of your house, that you can understand how you can do. Today we talked about how we will go into the forest or a remote place and do that. But how do we do that daily in the meditation time? How do we detach ourselves? How do we practice that retreat? The capacity to retreat out of this world. Let the world be there, but I'm just able to unhook, unhinge, and pull out of this world. And the world is out there into the vast insignificance. And I am in connection with something else. Is there a mental technique, exercise that I can go through regularly until I master it, so that at a step I can just pull out of it, drop everything and do that? That would be fantastic, isn't it? Because everyone at some time feels just too much with the world and it's on your shoulders and you can't shake off this heavy weight of the world. So is there a technique by which, through mental power, mental skill, through some technique we have developed, we develop this capacity to let go, to fall off. And I touched on that on yesterday's meditation class, but I would like to dedicate one Sunday class to that idea. I hope this has been useful to you, and of course the proof of the cake is in eating. So may Sri Ramakrishna give us the inspiration and spiritual strength to take his teachings and put them into action. Om asato ma satkamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम तत्सत्। श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।